But welcome to Game Changers Season 2, Episode 7, with the main man, gorgeous George Rose from No Limit Boxing. Talk to us a little bit about who you are and where you're from, brother.
Yeah, George Rose. George Rose. I'm from originally from Walgett, northwest New South Wales. Lived in Narrabri and Bathurst before I headed down to Sydney. Played footy since I was 4 years old. Grew up on footy, loved footy. Proud blackfella, Gomeroi man, strongest mob in the nation. And yeah, just falling into boxing now and loving doing what I'm doing there too.
Talk to us a little bit about, obviously, you've done a lot for Walgett, and you've got the carnival that you set up. How many years ago now?
I think it's 12 years now it's been running.
Yeah, so leading into the big knockout, a couple of weeks out. Boys have had that going now for 12 years and generating a lot of, wealth, but I think more so giving the people an event to look forward to every year out west too, but that's been successful too. And last year you introduced the kids and that as well now, the women and all that sort of stuff, and you do a lot. You guys have always done a lot, but now that you got the company, seems to be spreading out that way as well. I see you sponsor some of the men's groups and that out our way at Bree and that sort of stuff. But talk to us a little bit about the passion that you have for Walgett, and when did you move away? Because I know when you came down to Penrith, you came from Bathurst. So go into a little bit of depth with it.
Yeah, so well, I mean, Walgett always means a lot to me. It's where I learned to play footy, where I learned to ride a bike, where I learned to catch a fish, where I learned all of the things that have made me great. Because I'm a great fisherman too. You didn't mention that. I go all right too. It's where my father was from, my grandfather. I'm George Rose III, so I carry the name of two very very strong men there, and everything I do, I'm always trying to do them proud as well. But yeah, to be honest, I reckon I was a pretty narragar footballer when I was in Walgett. I don't reckon it was till we moved to Narrabri that I sort of found my feet playing footy. There, I actually played against Jamie Lyne, who went on to be, I think, one of the greatest centres that played in the NRL. He's one of my favourite players, that's for sure. But I used to lift him when we were in Narrabri, and you can ask him that. I always say it, and I always mention it. He was a wee war boy, and I used to shove it into him. He'd be crying when we'd be playing out at Narrabri, but he kicked on to be. I reckon the lessons I taught him as a young fella turned him into the man he became.
Him running away from you,
yeah. That's how he got so fast. But yeah, that's where I started getting all right at footy, and then we were living in Narrabri for a little while, and Dad was the manager of the CES there, which is, I guess, sort of like Centrelink these days, Services New South Wales. And then he passed away. He was 40 when he passed away there in Narrabri, and then so when that happened, Mum packed us up and moved us to Bathurst, which is that's where all of Mum's family was from, and so it was probably made it a bit easier. There was four of us kids there. We were pretty rowdy, and I think it made it a bit easier being close to a family with my uncles and everyone else who was able to sort of help us out over them couple of years. It was a tough couple of years when that first happened. So found our feet in Bathurst, and again, footy was probably the thing that helps you settle in. No matter where you move to, you can move to any town, but footy is the thing that sort of makes you welcome in that town, because if you can play a bit of footy, it's pretty easy to make friends and for people to like you being in the town. So we're always lucky with that. And I finished my high school there in Bathurst before I headed down to Penrith. Got to start down there in the juniors.
what did you play? What position did you play? Were you always in the forwards, or because I would imagine that when you're playing out Walgett and Narrabri, you had to have a bit of skill. So surely you pushed in and played in the halves, pushed the boys out of the way.
No, there wasn't really positions, you know. It was sort of it wasn't till what is it like under 11s or 12s or whatever when they start putting you into positions.
Yeah.
And I think at the time, I would have been one of the biggest in our team, but even still, I'm not as big as some of these kids these days. But so I was one of the biggest sort of fellas. So I ended up in the forwards. I didn't care because at that age it means that you get the ball a fair bit. So that's all I was worried about was getting a run. You know, aside from the halfback, as a front rower, you always end up getting the ball.
Yeah, definitely. So talk to us a little bit because I'm going to touch on the whack stuff and the knockout stuff, but talk to us a little bit more about Dad. And how old were you? Tranny's the youngest. How I was, and I don't know much about your sister either, brother. So that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Obviously, Maddie was at the forefront with the management stuff, and then like when it come over to promotional stuff at the boxing, once she retired, just sort of the face of it now. And Trenny's always in the background, So it'd be good for the people to know a little bit more about Trenny. And I don't know much about Trenny. I just know you and Maddie, and I don't know much about your sister either, brother. So talk to us about the family.
Yeah, well, so there's Matt. Matt's 4 years older than me, and Trent's 4 years younger than me.
Oh, we lost him.
So Miranda's 2 years older than me. Trent's 4 years younger, so he's the baby. But then older than Matt, I've got three other siblings. I've got Mandy, who's the oldest out of everyone, and then there's Max, and then Justin, and then Matt.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so before us four came along, there's the three older siblings, and then and then there was us four, and then and yeah, so Miranda's pretty. She's the wild one of the family. She was the one who, again, she's like I said about Jamie Lyon turning him into a good footballer. She turned us into good footballers because we were all scared of her when we were young. She used to turn on us pretty quick, and when she turned, she'd go for the kill. So I learned to run fast. I learned to jump fences. I learned to do whatever I had to do, climb on the roof, whatever I had to do to get away from Rinda. So it's I've got to credit a lot of my athletic ability to what she did to me as a kid.
Yeah. And she can wriggle a bit too. I've seen her at the fights there again the other night. She gets into it when the songs are pumping. She loves a dance.
Yeah, she likes to put her hand up as the number one dancer at every fight night. Yeah, there's not often that she'll be sitting in her seat between her and one of my good mates, George Diaz. They're always dancing to every song that's up there. So they're always competing for best dancer of the night. But I think if anyone wants to try to challenge Rinda Girl, she'll be there for the challenge.
So only young when you lost Dad, but I would imagine that what you've sort of done with started out as BACA, and then you come across the WAC. So talk to us about that transition as well, brother, and then we'll talk a little bit about knockouts as a whole.
In 2010, we became Walgett Aboriginal Connection, and I think at the time it was sort of, I suppose it was just sort of a changeover of the club, what we were as a club. We were all living down here in Sydney. A lot of our side was sort of made up of our closest mates and then our cousins and nephews and everyone else. But it was really becoming built around our close friends, and so when we went went under Walgett Aboriginal Connection, the idea was around it's us, it's our team, and everyone that's connected to us. So everyone that's sort of playing alongside there, it's sort of, it's someone who we feel is family, or treat as family. And I think one of the most exciting parts about the knockout is you get to play with people that you don't get to play with during the year. You get, people that you might not have ever had a chance to play with, whether it's a mate from when you were young, or a nephew, or an uncle, or a cousin, or just anyone that it could be. That's sort of the one opportunity where one time a year you can come alongside and play alongside each other, whether they're NRL player, or whether they're didn't even have a run that year. So the mixture of players in squads, that's one of the unique things about the knockout is that you get to play with all sorts of people.
Yeah. So you guys have won a couple of knockouts. Talk to us a little bit about what you fellas believe it takes to win a knockout, and why do you feel teams who have been on the verge, like Burke, for instance, now, what do they need to do to take the next step? Because they've been on the verge, but what do you think it takes to win a knockout?
One of the things that I think that we changed, and it sort of changed us, was when we were young. Like we used to get knocked out like first and second round, and but we still turned up. We loved the knockout, and so we used to do young fellas. So we got excited about going out and the rest of it. Everything else that comes with the knockout weekend, and so we were enjoying the festivities of what knockout weekend is about. And I think as a young fella, that's fine, but then we're getting a little bit older, and we're actually getting a little bit better too. We're actually getting to a point where we're able to compete with, some of the good teams, and so we had to get to the point and say, look, if we're serious about it, let's stop going out. That was the first step. The first step that we took was, let's stop going out on the Friday or Saturday night, and let's try and win some games. And that was sort of the first step that we took to get there. And then, at the time, it just started getting better and better. It did help that we had a really good core group together, and Matt was in some of the best form that he'd ever been playing footy. Trent was a young gun coming through, and I was a big forward. You don't win knockouts without good forwards, and not a lot of teams have good forwards. There's some great teams out there that have been one forward away from winning the knockout, and teams like Cabo and even Bunjalung, some great teams like that have had this amazing squad, had one good fit big front rower up front, could have made the difference in taking them all away. And so I think that's one thing that helped, is that we've always had good fit forwards.
Yeah. And deep too, eh? You got to have deep benches, eh? A lot of the sides that notice out here that have gone deep in the Mondays and won it, they've always had deep benches, and they tend to manage the teams better on the Saturday and early Sunday, and save the guns for late Sunday, eh? Like I've seen a couple of teams that you think are going to go through and win it, but they might be, leading teams 30-0, and they still got all the guns on there, rather than bringing them all off and letting, the bench sort of get some miles in the legs and saving themselves. You make a mistake like that, hurt you at the back end, eh?
Yeah, you can't win a knockout without 25 players. You have to have 25 players, and that was another thing that we learned. So early on in the piece, we used to lose a lot of players because if you didn't have a starting jersey, people wouldn't want to play with you unless if their jersey wasn't 1 to 13. They would pack up and leave, and you'd turn up there looking for them on the Saturday morning, and here they are running out with some other team because they got a starting jersey there. But the thing is that you look back at every one of our finals that we've played in, and you look at the jerseys that people got on their back. It's not our starting side that started the weekend that's out there starting for that final. It's you know, and there's fellas that come through over the weekend that, you know, they mightn't have been in the top 13 in the plans, but they've had a great weekend, and they end up, you have to have them on the field, you know, like you have to get them out there. I know every final we've played, we've had there'd be at least 4 players that weren't in the starting 13, at least, you know, 4 or 5, and you need them. You need them because you need the fresh legs. You need as fresh as you can be by Monday.
Professionalism's a big one now too. I feel like you can't get anyone if you haven't got 5-star accommodation, and I think you fellas, like with, I mentioned here, like you, Yowies, Redfern went on their good runs as well. But I think you played a big role in professionalism coming into knockouts as well, like sports science and trainers. You got doctors and everything in your camp, you know. But supporter gear, you know, the whack gear is always, you know, front and center now. But I feel like you guys sort of started that trend as well. But nutrition and management of bodies now as well. You know, I feel like you fellas, Redfern, like I said, Yowies, obviously, Dennis and Dean brought that in with Narwin as well, and went on a run there. But is that one of the things that you made sure that you had to sort of introduce as well if you want to go deep and make that run?
Yeah, and you know what, it's little things as well. Like I said, when we started off, we first started with stop going out, and you know what comes with that is getting a good night's sleep. So, you know, if you've got accommodation wherever you're staying at, if you've got accommodation, you've got a bed wherever you're at, you're going to get a good night's sleep, and you need it. You need a good night's sleep. So, you know, that's important. Just we're pretty lucky too because our cousin Shane Fernando is a doctor. So Doc Fernando, he's the man. You know, we're lucky that we've got a smart cousin like him, and well, Jamie as well. They're both doctors. So
Lost your sound, Georgie. Lost your sound.
look at people like Jody Sigwell, Gadget. You know, he's been strapping ankles for 30 odd years, and he's done the junior rep teams. He's done all different sorts of great teams, and again, so his experience and his ability to be able to do that and help with managing injuries, and then obviously his boys have grown up. They started as our ball boys and have come through and played as well. You know, having people like that helps towards that sort of thing, and you know, taking advantage of wherever we're at. If we're close to the ocean, going for a swim after it. If we're, you know, if not, take advantage of a pool or whatever there is there, because you know, if you put the footy as a priority for the weekend, you got to make the most of what you can to have the freshest possible bodies by Monday, and you know, it's always easier said than done. You can have the maddest preparation and do everything right and turn up and get knocked out first game. And we've had it happen to us plenty of times. First game, second game.
Last year, eh?
You know, but it's, no matter what you do, you're not guaranteed to get through. So, and that's a hard thing. You've got to wait 12 months then, 12 months to go back and do it all again. And I mean, what happened to us last year, is we were just excited about having the knockout back on again, and just excited about being there and going to the knockout again. It was actually going to happen, and to be honest, I didn't think that we had a team to do it. Like, I didn't think we had the team to do it, and then even worse, we got the draw of death. And I thought, you know, with no chance of going through, but I was just excited about getting an opportunity to get back to the knockout and get back playing footy and be around everyone and watch some good footy and enjoy the weekend all over again. But somehow we ended up going through to the grand final. I don't think we even had our accommodation booked for the Monday, so we ended up getting there. So it happens. You know, you can plan for a good outcome and not get it, and then you can think that you're going there for a bit of fun and end up going through to the final.
and sustainability for you fellas, how do you make sure that everyone sort of comes back all the time as well, Georgie? Because you sustain that success for a long time.
I just lost your sound. Might be my phone.
Yeah, so there you go there. Because I did lose you for a minute there before, but I got you back. You got me now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. No good?
I don't know what to do.
Wait there. I'll see if I can turn you out and turn you back in. Try now.
You got me?
Yeah. I got you. You got me? Can you hear me? No. Can you hear me now? See if the big fella comes back in. Having some sound issues. And we'll touch a little bit on George's career and then talk a little bit about the boxing stuff with No Limit as well while we got him. Obviously, busy fella, so he's out and about with the young fella at footy training. Yeah, but obviously, number one boxing promoters in the country now, the boys as well. So start off with those little knockouts. Matty with the player management stuff, and then Georgie's still playing. I think Georgie went and done a course as well while he was playing, some sort of business course, I'm pretty sure. And then once he retired, yeah, he's now sort of become the face, and Matty does a lot of stuff. Matty and Trent in the background as well. So hopefully we can get Georgie back, and we'll have a little bit more of a chat. Yeah, about that stuff. What about the footy, guys? I had a little bit of stuff there as well with the footy. Obviously, we haven't really talked much about it, but let me see if we can share a screen here and have a look at the ladder. Let's see if you can see that one. We'll try something different. Hopefully you can see the ladder. Can you see that? Yeah. I think Georgie's back, so we'll see if we can get Georgie back in. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm just going to turn my camera around here.
Auntie Linda, how you going, Auntie Linda? Straight out of Garuga there. Sweet. I'll take this. I'll take that one down. Yeah. So obviously, for the littler teams, I know Linda's just popped up there. Like talk about little teams like Garuga and Bree, and like all them little teams that sort of might call rake up teams, or haven't really got the backing behind them, opportunities, and the businesses, in them small towns to be able to, like have food and everything, like water and trainers and even tape, like it's massive. The difference is massive, from the sides that have got a sponsorship to the sides that do your 100 clubs and footy doubles week to week just to get there, but they all want to be a part of this event. So what's some advice before we move on and have a little bit of a yarn about your career? What's some advice that you can give to the smaller teams as such, brother, around sustainability and success?
I think every team's different. I think everyone's sort of got their own journey and they're at their own point of where they are with the knockout. Like I said, like when we were at a different point, we were turning up for fun and just enjoying the weekend, knowing that we weren't going to win it, but we got to play a bit of footy and got to have a bit of fun. But you look at last year, the amount of Western teams that were in there. In the mix, in the top 16, you got the likes of, there was Burke, there was Garuga really pushed through, Moree, Toomala. There's a lot of sides from out west that are smaller communities, but really competing at the top. And I think one team that I really want to talk about with that is Burke. look at how fit Burke were. You know, Burke, and it's not something that's happened overnight. You look at
No.
the team, every one of that team is fit. They all got muscles. They look good. They look good, but they put in the work. And that's the thing, is that I reckon it doesn't matter where you've come from and where your team's come from. If you haven't put in the training, you haven't put in the work, you're not going to get through to the Monday anyway. You might beat a few teams early, but if to get through to the Monday and win on the Monday, it takes a lot of fitness. It takes a lot of you've got to train all year round. You've got to play all year round to be able to do it. And I think that's where a lot of our smaller communities are disadvantaged, because the competitions aren't as strong as they used to be in small communities. Like, I remember when I was a kid, and my dad and that were playing Group 14, Group 15. They were beastie teams. They were really good teams. You know, they were
Yeah.
teams that could compete with anyone else. Whereas now, the best teams in country rugby league, Newcastle is the best comp in country rugby league. And you
Yeah.
look at the knockout, all of the Newcastle teams always make it through to the top 16, whether that's Yowies, All Blacks, Minda River are always in the mix. Emus are in the mix. They're teams that can make it through to that top 16, because they're coming from a place where the footy competition is really strong, and to play in the Newcastle competition, you've got to be very, very fit. And I think teams like La Perouse and Redfern have had, similar opportunities with the South Sydney comp. It's a very tough competition, and both Redfern and Lapa have got local teams in that competition. So uh, I think that's something that really does help, is the competition that you play in and how fit you are. So at the end of the day, you could have, like I said before, you could have the best. You could have accommodation sorted. You could have food and that ready. You could have your breakfast and that sorted. But if you haven't got a fit team, then you're not gonna get through to the Monday anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Footy, your footy, brother. For a lot of people that have watched the boxing, and have only seen you sort of with the boxing, they wouldn't know that you actually played over 150 first grade games as well. Talk to us a little bit about your journey there, before we wrap up with the boxing stuff. But yeah, from the start, Penrith days.
From the start, well, I didn't think I was going to make it at first. I didn't think I'd make it in Sydney, because I was focused on finishing high school and going to uni, trying to do something like that, because I was pretty good. I was a decent footy player as a junior, but I never made any of them rep sides. Cause I think I'm 2 or 3 years older than you, and I remember going up to the New South Wales trials when I was in year 12, and I couldn't even get a look in. I didn't even come close. You were about 14, and you made the open side. That's how good you were at the time. So I never really got picked in the really good rep sides when I was young. So I didn't think it was something that had happened, but I got lucky enough for a Penrith scout took me down to Penrith as a junior. Me and a couple of other fellas from Bathurst at the time, and I got to start down there, and it was an eye opener, because you know yourself, you play country footy. We used to turn up. We'd play kick tennis. We'd play foursome backs. We'd play touch footy, walk and touch. Then we'd do a couple of plays, and then we'd warm down with the same thing all over again. So it wasn't really training that you did. I hadn't lifted a weight. I hadn't done anything like that. So it was really hard moving down to Sydney and having a crack at it. But I ended up I played SG ball, Jersey flag, and reserve grade at Penrith, and we made the grand final in every one of them grades. So we had a decent side, and I was going all right. Um, from there, the year at Penrith, it didn't look like anything else was going to happen. And then the Roosters come to me and said, they'll give me a spot training full time for the Roosters. So I went over to the Roosters and had and signed over there. Played there for 2 years. Made my first grade debut playing for them. I only played 6 games, I think, in the 2 years I was there. But the experience that I got of training full time and what that meant, and how hard it was, and learning from all them first graders that you got to be around. You got to be around people and see what they do to become the player that they are. And so you learn a few lessons, a few hard lessons there, and learn how difficult it is to get to the top and to maintain it. Um, yeah, after 2 years there, I got an opportunity from Manly to go to Manly. Um, they said that they guaranteed me a spot in their starting 17,
Yeah.
and I hate moving, I hate leaving. I get real comfortable wherever I'm at, and I went to the Roosters and I said, look, they've offered me a guaranteed spot. I don't want to go. I want to stay here. And he said, oh well, I can't guarantee you a spot in the 17 every week. They had an international side, so um,
Yeah.
so it's I thought I better take it, and yeah, I took the opportunity, and it was a really good decision. I ended up staying at Manly for 8 years. In
Mm.
that 8 years, we made the final series every year. We played in 4 grand finals, won 2, lost 2, and we had a really good team, and really got to really enjoy my footy, and I found my feet there. I got along really well with Des Hasler. I liked the style of footy he wanted to play. It suited me, and that's what sort of helped. I put in the work, and I meant I get to keep my spot and got to play in grand finals and win it. So yeah, it was
And
that was that was my
fan
most
favorite,
enjoyable club.
fan favorite over
Yeah,
there too. That's what I gave you the name.
yeah. Yeah. Well, do you know what? That's one of my favourite memories about playing footy was the way that the crowd used to cheer for me every time I ran on the
Yeah.
field at Brookie, and even if I felt like I wasn't up to it that day, when you hear them yelling around for you like that, it just makes you want to run through anyone. So that first run for me every time, it just felt good because you hear that roar, and I was thinking, who are they yelling for? I remember once there when I went onto the field, and there was this real big roar, and I was thinking, what the hell just happened? And they're saying on the field for Manly Seagulls, number 17, gorgeous George Rose, and they were going mad. I was like, oh, give me the ball. So I was like big noise, give me the ball, and I'll run the ball up.
Yeah. But like
Yeah.
backtracking a little bit for the people that don't know as well, when you go from Penrith, because there's a international pack there too who just come off winning a grand final, like with
Oh,
Joey Nalavar and Tony Pullatour and Scotty Sattler, all these sort of fellas, Luke Prittis, like star
yeah,
started up.
and star-studded, and fellas, they just won that. They just beat Roosters in the grand final, so they were a real good team, and there was a lot of young blokes that were in that team that had just signed in that were going to be there long term, and so you sort of knew that the opportunity wasn't going to be there as much um, as the Roosters was. So I think for Penrith, they were just going to have me play reserve grade again that following year, which is fine. But Roosters offered me a full-time training contract, so
And you had star-studded side
it's the
there
next
as well.
step.
Now, I want to ask you a yarn about the Roosters because Fuss told me this yarn a little while ago. But he reckons that, I don't know if it was the first or the second year you were there, he reckons you're doing skin folds and you weren't losing anything, but you're training the house down. He reckons Ricky Stewart followed you after the session one time. Is that true or what?
Nah, he's added a little bit of spice to that. He's added a little bit of spice to it. But he was hard, man. Ricky Stewart, he was a hard man. He's entertaining now. I love watching his post game interviews, but he was, he taught me some hard lessons.
And then you went to Melbourne as well, brother. Talk about hard. What was that experience like compared to the other 3 clubs?
A lot of people asked, about how hard Melbourne train, and to be honest, I don't believe that they trained any harder. I just think that they were a much more organised club. There was a lot more time that was spent on video and game preparation. My days there were, some days I'd be in at 6 o'clock and leave there at 6 o'clock. You compare it to at Manly, and it was funny because Manly and the Storm were so competitive during that era, but so different. At Manly, we'd get in about 8 o'clock, do all of our work, rip right in, and be done by 2 o'clock, be home by 2. So, you know, you'd get an afternoon to yourself to live your life a little bit.
Yeah.
Moving down to Melbourne, they said, you're going to be out of the bubble down here. It'll be, you'll be away from the footy bubble. But I felt like I was more surrounded by footy than I'd ever been in my life because,
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot more video and the days were longer. And that's what made it a bit tougher. But as far as the organisation and the people that they had there at the club, I think it's one of the most professional, most best run clubs that I've ever seen. And I could understand why they were so successful because they were so well drilled. Craig Bellamy was an amazing coach, and yeah, you could see why they were successful.
Yeah. Was he just relentless all the time, work on things until you get it right?
No, there was he was, but he also, like, you'd turn up there in the morning and he'd be on the treadmill. He'd be doing his own work and he'd be ripping in. Like away from the training paddock, he'd sit down and talk to you, like a man. Like he's a caring person, and you could have good quality open conversations with you.
Yeah.
But on the field, he expects excellence, and I think out of any coach across the game at the time, I think he had more control over every one of his players than any other team. And so at any given time, he knew that whatever he asked of his players, he'd get it in return. And that was just because everyone was so well drilled. It was repetitive. And you stick to a structure, you stick to a game plan, and the structure worked. The structure worked, the plans worked, and yeah, it was an eye opener, that's for sure.
Out of all the clubs you played at, where you reckon you played your best footy, and why?
I do think it was Manly, and I think it's because the style of footy suited me, and the style of club suited me. Like there was a really good group of fellas there. A lot of country boys that were there that had become important people at the club, and a real good coaching staff, a staff that understood you, that knew how to get the best out of you, knew when they'd got enough out of you, and knew just how to make you a better footballer and a better person. And I think my time there, I really enjoyed my footy, and I played some really good footy while I was there. So it was my best club for sure.
Now, bit of advice. What advice can you give young fellas? That you talked a little bit about it, George, and we see it a lot now. A lot of fellas making their debut later in life, and probably not thinking that they were ever good enough and played in strong enough comps. What advice can you give to the young ones that are aspiring players, to reach the heights that you reached?
I think there's a few things to it. Like there's a lot to it. There's plenty of talented footballers out there, but it's not always the most talented player that goes on to play the most games, because once you get down here, life's a lot different. The football's a lot different, and to make it, you as a person, you have to be a lot different. Sometimes you have to do things that you wouldn't usually do to be able to make it. Like sometimes you got to swallow your pride and do the extra training, and follow a game plan that probably doesn't suit you. But then when your opportunity comes, you take that opportunity. It's like everybody walks onto the field with a structure, with a plan, and you stick to that plan until the opportunity happens. And if you get the chance to take that opportunity, that's what makes you the difference between being a good player and a great player. And I think, Cody Walker's probably a really good example. People think that he just plays footy off the top of his head, but he comes onto the field with a structure, with a plan every time. It's just that he reads the game and adapts to the opportunity that presents itself, and that's why he'll make them amazing things happen, because he knows when to go, when it's on and when it's not. Be prepared to be treated pretty rough when you get down here too. You got to be prepared for that, because when you come from the country, you're usually the big fish in a small pond, and everybody will fall at your feet and let you get away with whatever you got to do, because they know when you get on the field, you're going to be amazing. But when you get down here, everybody in your squad is amazing. So be prepared to have people not treat you like the king that you were wherever you came from, and if you can handle that, it'll go a long way towards you becoming a good footballer.
Who was the best player you played with and against, Georgie?
I mentioned Jamie Lyon before. He's definitely one of the most talented footballers that I've ever played with, and he could make things happen from nothing. Greg Inglis, without a doubt, is the best footballer that I've ever played with, against, and seen. Athletically, what he could do. He was fast. He was big. He was strong. He had skill. He could do anything. He could play any position on the field, and he would have been the best player on the field in whatever position. He could have even played front row and been the best front rower in the team. But he's just gifted, and I feel very lucky that I did get to play against him and also play alongside him as well. So very lucky.
And the brothers, a lot of your brothers' ears will prick up now, but who's the best that didn't get to play NRL that you thought should have? Modern brothers you played with?
There's some good ones out there. You're a perfect example. Like I said, when you were 14, you're playing opens, open schoolboys, and you're doing it easy. I thought you were older than me. You're a pup. You didn't even have fluff on you then, and the things you were doing on a footy field was amazing. Yeah, far out. You're good. You're good. Brenton Cochrane's amazing. He's a very, very good footballer. Yeah, man, he's a very good footballer. Yum Cochrane. Or I'm just going through Gaduga. I'm just starting in one town. I could go through every town and mention the amount of players that were great. Ted Simpson. Played Australian schoolboys 2 years in a row. Should have been a 200 game Canberra Raider, but one of the greatest players that didn't kick on. There's so many. Yeah, there's a lot out there.
No limit, brother. No limit. Talk to us a little bit about the journey, because I feel like Matt was doing the management stuff while you were still playing. Is that right? And did you study while you were playing?
Yeah. So I started studying in 2013, the same year that we lost the grand final to the Roosters. We got rorted. I started studying then. Matt was doing management and doing a really good job of it, and was looking after a couple of boxers as well, and we're lucky to have a lot of very good influence around us. Strong black men who want to achieve greatness and want to push the boundaries and push through the barriers that usually hold us back from being successful and being great. And we've been lucky to have them people in our lives for a long time. And
Name some of them.
When the opportunity, well, I mean, people, Newcastle brothers up there, like the Black Money brothers, Wack and Aby Wright, two brilliant Aboriginal men who bring people along for the journey and push themselves to break down barriers and go on to greatness. And when we sort of, even coming into the boxing game, you don't have a blueprint, or you don't know someone who's done it before, who can teach you what to do, or teach you what ropes to follow. And that's probably what makes it so hard, is that for a lot of blackfellas who want to try to achieve something, is that there hasn't been someone before them who's walked that path and can take you on the journey and help you out with it. So when you're diving into deep water and not knowing what to do, having people around you who constantly pump you up and constantly push you in the right direction, it really helps. It really helps because even though people won't have the right advice not the right advice, who won't have the exact advice that you need on how to be great in that field, as long as you've got people that are supportive of you and want to see you succeed, it helps. It helps. And so going into boxing, it was something that we didn't know really well and didn't know a lot about. And, we were learning our ropes along the way. How to run events, how to follow Combat Sports Authority rules, how to do what we've got to the point of doing. And Matt was really good at what he was doing. He's a very good multitasker, and he even now, knowing what we do now, a lot of the first shows, Matt did everything on his own. So the fact that we now do it with a team of dozens, where I think, how did he get by with just him doing it? Because I was playing footy at the time. Trent was still young, and he was doing it all on his own. So it's really impressive and a credit to him that he was able to do what he did the first few. But now we're lucky. We've got a really good team around us. We've got people with experience who've gained experience over the events. And I think the last event that we put on was without a doubt our best. And I don't think it'll be our best ever, but it was our best so far, because I feel like every event that we do, we learn more, we get better, and we aim to do better every time.
What where did the inspiration come from, Georgie? And what were you actually boxing fans?
We've been boxing fans all our life. When you've got one of the greatest Australian boxers of all time, with the name of Lionel Rose, you got to be a boxing fan, And I don't know what exactly our relationship to him, but he's my mob and he's my uncle. I claim him for everything, because when you've got a Rose that's a world champion, you're claiming him every day of the week. But yeah, we always loved boxing, always loved it, always followed it. And, but I think where we've gone well is knowing both the athlete side of sport, knowing the event side of sport in running a knockout, what you've got to do to be able to run a good knockout, having experience with that, having experience as an athlete, and having experience just watching sport our whole life and knowing what we enjoy and what we want to see and what we want to do. That's helped us to be able to put on the best fights, because the best fight nights, because we want to enjoy ourselves. If we're not having fun, then how can other people be having fun? If I'm not at the fights and dancing in between fights, and and getting excited, and then the walkouts come, and getting excited about someone's walkout, and watching a good close, a good even fight, or a good exciting entertaining fight, then how can I expect everyone else to be having a good time if I'm not having a good time? So that's how we try to do what we do, and I think we've got a really good mix at the moment.
What's the role of yourself, Matty, and Trent? Is all we saw, like in the lead up to the last fight, a little bit of you guys doing planning and stuff, and what you talked about then. But yeah, on the camera sort of thing. What are the roles of each of you, brother?
It's really blended, really, and you have to be we have to be. You have to be prepared to do everything for it to be successful. So I think official titles are, Matt's director of boxing operations, Trent's head matchmaker, and I've got the title of CEO. But with everything, like of a morning, I'm vacuuming the floor in the office. I'm doing the washing up and that. So there's everything, and then on fight night, if someone's got to do something, you got to do it. If I've got to dive into the ring and wipe blood off the canvas, and I'm the only one that's there to do it, then I've got to do it, because if you're you can't have an ego in what you're doing, because if you do, the work isn't going to get done. You've got to be willing to do everything for the job to get done, and that goes from everything. Yeah.
Where to next, brother? Obviously, you talked about the last fight. Charlo is on the horizon. He's obviously undisputed. He can't dodge us anymore. But where to next? And are there any other fighters as well that are going to sort of take you to places as well?
Well, in 12 hours, I'm flying out to Manchester. We've got David Light, who's fighting for a world title over there on Saturday night over in the UK. So heading across for it, and hopefully he gets that. He's in a very tough fight against Lawrence Okoli. So hopefully we can get something there. But we'll be there to support him 100% and see that he gets the best fair opportunity that he deserves, and with this world title shot. So between that, we've got another couple of shows that we've got planning. Our Fox Sports deal, it pretty much means that we've got to pump out about 14 shows this year. So there'll be a lot of shows coming. Timmy Zoo's back in the ring, so he's active again, and he'll be looking to fight. He'll be looking to fight every 3 months. He doesn't sit around and wait. If Charlo's going to sit and wait, I'd say Tim will fight again. Tim will fight again, and keep dragging him out. Is that if he doesn't want to get in the ring straight away, then I'm sure Tim will make something else happen. But the goal is Charlo. The goal is undisputed, and that's that's the big one. Like Tim's been on this journey with us from very early, and so the journey's been really fun with Tim, to see us grow and him grow at the same time, and we're putting on great shows for him to be a part of, and he's putting on great performances in the ring. So outside of him, we've got Paulo Acuso, we've got Nikita Zoo, we've got Sam Goodman, we've got Liam Wilson, Harry Garside. There's a lot of guys that are that are in a position to take advantage of where we're at the moment with No Limit Boxing, and their talents in the ring are supporting what we want to do as a company as well. So who knows what we're going to have soon.
How often do you talk to your fighters, brother? How often are you around fellas like Timmy Zoo and Harry Garside and them?
Oh, it depends. It depends. It's between all of us. The conversations are regular. Whether we're watching them train, I love watching them train too, to see what they do, because they're the best in the business for a reason, and I like to be able to see that. And the one thing that stands out with Tim Zoo is you watch him train and watch what he does, and you know why he's levels above everyone else. He trains at levels above everyone else, and he does the hard work. So like you just see the difference when you watch Tim train. You know why he's going to be a champion, why he's a champion, and there's a lot of guys that are on that route too. So I always love doing boxing training. Even when I was playing footy, I love doing boxing training. It's fun. You feel mad. You watch your fights, you think that you can fight. I can't fight, but you still think that you can. So it's fun to watch them train.
When you're around them sort of fellas, you must pick up things. You could pick up things in one or two sessions, couldn't you? Do you get in with them and like ask for little lessons?
No, but you see, the thing is that you see them do it, and then you try to do it. And you think you're doing it, but you look at yourself doing it. You don't look like how they look. Timmy Zoo looks mad, and then I do the same thing, and I'll be like, nah, that looks slow. It looks slow. My arm didn't go as far as my noise went, so I'm doing the noises right. I'm like, and my arm's like, it's not the same.
You've been overseas too. Obviously been to a couple of events over there, basketball, box, and all those sorts of things, Georgie. Do you bring inspiration from those events back to the entertainment side of stuff as well?
Yeah, 100%. And that's the reason that we do it. Like, one is because, I grew up watching them things and would always love to have had the chance to experience. But the other thing is because we want to learn from the best. What do they do good that we can then try to do? What did we enjoy when we went there that we could do with one of our shows? Because,
Yeah.
a lot of Americans and that they think that Australia is too far away to come and travel to, and that will be real narrow if they do come down here. Like we're riding
Yeah.
around on kangaroos. We probably don't even fight in an arena or a stadium or anything like that. So we want to put on amazing events that people enjoy and make the experience better than better than anything anyone else has experienced, even for the people here in Australia, so that when they come to a show, that they're blown away by the feeling that they had. And one of the things that I love hearing at the moment is when people are coming to some of our shows, they're like, "Oh, I felt like I was in Las Vegas," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "That's what I want you to feel when you walk away from me."
I was watching Sean Porter commentate the other night as well, and like he was bopping. He had his girlfriend behind him to the left of him, and he's sort of referencing a few of the things, that sort of come up, and he liked the screen up top or whatever as well. I saw, but you've been in a lot of them good gyms over there, George, and I know the little fella wants to get home there, so I'll ask you one or two more, and we'll let you go. But you've been in a lot of those gyms over there, brother, and at the basketball and that too. Talk to us about some of the names that you've sort of, brush paths with, I guess.
Well, the funny thing is, right, is so the first basketball game that we got to go to, um, we got to go and watch, LeBron James. We got to watch LeBron James play in LA. And when he was warming up there right in front of us, and he's doing these shots, and he's looking at us. So he do the no look shot and get in. Like, for me, that was amazing experience. But then, and then the celebrities start rolling in, and so 2 seats up from us, Kid Leroy walks in. Kid Leroy walks in. So this little black fella from Australia is going over there. He's killing it in LA, and he's walked in. There's 5 black fellas sitting here in the front row just next to him. So I think he spun out just as much as we spun out to see him there, to see him sitting there. And um, even the experience that we got to go to the Super Bowl. So I'd never been to a Super Bowl before in my life, and when we went to the Super Bowl, walking into it, like you go past all of these celebrities just walking in to sit down as well. Like we were lining up to go to our thing to walk in, and Sierra's there as well. Like she's standing there walking into to her thing, and then we come to the next part, and there was Brett Favre and what's the Golden State's coach's name? Steve Kerr. Brett Favre and Steve Kerr are there, and they're just having a yarn, like they're just standing there. It's like if I ran into you at McDonald Jones Stadium going to the footy, and just having a yarn, and it was so that was pretty amazing. Like to experience them things that we got to experience in the last couple of years. You know, I don't know if I'll ever get to experience it again, but I'm grateful that I got to do it.
You got the opportunity, brother, because you got Charlo up next. I remember when you were at the Charlo fight, and I was there sending you all these messages about, oh, Spencer's there next year. Is that Zab due to be on? Yeah, you had all
Yes, yes,
no way.
yeah. And LL Cool J's sitting just up near us. Sugar Ray Leonard was just there, and so that was fun because we were just sitting there as fans of the fight that day too, like getting to watch a Charlo fight. And yeah, Errol Spence was right there near us, and Leo Santa Cruz and oh, Chris Brown pulled up right in front of us. Like yeah.
So to finish with, brother, obviously you got to be proud of your achievements, right? Coming from where you come from, young fellas from out of the wild Bathurst, from where you are or where you came from to where you are today is just it's mountains apart. It's miles apart, brother. Obviously, I want to talk a little bit in closing about your dad, and I would imagine that he motivated you fellas to do a lot of the things you're doing, right? So, do you ever sit back and think about the career you've had and the things that you do, show by show, and think about, what your dad would think? What would your dad say to you fellas, you reckon?
Oh, to be honest, it's one of the things. Every time we have a great moment, every time we sort of have a great moment, or um, achieve something amazing, um, it is one of them things that you think, I wonder what he'd think of us
Yeah,
right now. Because I mean, I was nine when he passed away, and even when you're growing up, you wonder, what he'd think of you as an adult, or as what you're doing as yeah, everything you achieve. You wonder what he would think,
yeah,
and wonder what it would feel like, and yeah, you're like, yeah, it's. Yeah, I think everything we do, like it's always like that one little thing that you wonder. I wonder what he would have thought of what we achieved here today. I wonder if he would have enjoyed sitting up here at the boxing, and
yeah,
that's why I suppose that's why we try to bring as many people along as we can for the journey. Like if you ever come to one of our shows, you look at our crew and everyone that's working with us, and then even everyone that's there in the crowd. We want it wouldn't be as fun if we didn't have our people around us enjoying it as well.
yeah, brother. And that's the one thing that I always think when I go to them shows. I had the same feeling when I went and watched Chalk. You feel like he's taking you along for the ride. But for us, for me personally, it's closer to home because you fellas are, you're only there in Walgett from us, 130 k's. Our grandmothers are very close. Like my old great grandmother, Ida Fernando, same grandmother that Shane and that I got, so family as well. But uh, I know that I share the sentiments of a lot of people, brother, a lot of our mob, but especially a lot of our mob out west when I say I'm proud of you fellas for what you're doing, brother. And I can see how loyal you are. Everyone that works there. I met the brother that walks them out with Rika, and he works in education too. Like you got all the brothers and the sisters.
Yeah, Desi Crow, yeah,
Yeah, Walgett
yeah,
and Burger and all them sort of things too, brother. So, you know, I take my hat off to you because you seem like you're very loyal people. And like you said, you're bringing everyone along for the ride. You want them to experience what you fellas are experiencing because obviously they've touched your lives in a special way as well. So you wanna give back, brother. But yeah. In closing, I just want to say I'm proud of you fellas and keep it up. And take our culture all around the world, brother.
100%. That's why every time I travel, I always take my black fella shirt and make sure I wear it so everyone knows that wherever we are, whatever we're doing, black fellas are there. We're everywhere.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it, brother. I've been trying to get you for a while, but I know you're busy. But yeah, appreciate you coming on and get your little fella on there now, or you'll king shot me at the next
Yeah.
one.
Thanks for having me, and I love what you're doing, bro. I really do love what you're doing. So always support you too, 100%.
Thanks, brother. I'll talk to you soon, eh?
All right, see ya.
Thanks, brother. Thanks again. All right, guys, there we go. Brother Georgie Rose, all the way from the gate. And I forgot to ask him, Chrissy Jones, fella. I forgot to ask him about the pole to pole race, but I reckon that's because you were frightened of the dark, both of you. Racing from pole to pole. That's where the lights were when we were all young fellas in the dark. But over an hour again tonight, guys, and I know, I said the last couple of yarns that we'd have a look at a bit of footy, but I know ours a fair time, and I told George he's sort of 30 to 40 minutes, so I'm grateful that he sort of stuck around with the young fella there. But I'm mindful of the time. I'm mindful of your time. I thank you all for watching, and because we've already gone on an hour, I'll leave it there. But I will say thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you all again next week. Enjoy the footy. I think there's a big Brisbane derby on. My team, the old Bronx. I thought that St George was going to get them on the weekend, but they showed a bit of fight. They're a different team this year, I think. going against a new team, the Dolphins, this week. So we'll see how good the Dolphins really are this week, because I think this is going to be a solid test for them. I got the chocolates here in Newcastle the other night over a depleted Newcastle side, but take nothing away from the Dolphins and what they're doing too. Showing a bit of ticker. So Broncos on top with the Dolphins. Manly, Warriors are doing some good things too. I like Manly. Obviously, I love Tommy Turbo, and the Panthers are sneaking along there too under the radar, as Buniati would say. So enjoy your footy this week, and we might talk a little bit about it next week. We'll see how we go. Thanks again for tuning in. That's episode 7 of season 2 in the bank. Big Georgie Rose. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.